Hey guys, so I'm back with another card video, and this time it's based off of a sketch, and I'll show it here on the screen so you can see it. But it's the end of my spring break, and I kind of figured I should get one more project in before I have to go back to work. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I've selected some papers from a 6x6 fancy pants pad. I believe it's Trendsetter. It's an older paper stack, but it really had the nautical theme that I was going for. And to save paper, I used one of those patterns that had multiple prints in it, and I just trimmed off the portion that I wanted to use for the front of my card. I trimmed the houndstooth pattern paper and this light blue tealish colored paper down to roughly 4 by 5 1/4. So I could have a little bit of a border around the card. And then I just adhered that colorful houndstooth pattern to the top. And this is just going to be the front portion of the card, or the main background of the card. Now I'm going to start working on the anchor for the front of my card. I don't have any silver paper right now. So what I did is I took an ink pad, a Versamark ink pad, and I coated it with silver embossing powder. Heat set it with my embossing tool, and then repeated the process to make the coating thick. So after I heat set it and it cools, I'm actually going to take my Versamark ink pad and go over the embossed area again and apply some more embossing powder, and then heat set it using my heat tool a second time to get a thicker coat. Once I finished embossing, I was ready to do my die cutting. And this piece of paper you see is going to be the front part of the card that has the anchor on it and the background. So I'm die cutting the circle in the middle so that I can hide it later with the front panel and save a little bit of paper. So I die cut the circle that I need out of the center portion, and then I'm going to take my anchor die and die cut it out of the silver section that I embossed earlier. And this goes through pretty cleanly, but if it gives you little holes where your injection holes are, you can just run your heat gun over it again to clear it out. But I actually did have to run it through my machine twice to make sure I got a clean cut. At this point, you can start to see the basic design of the card come together. I've selected a stamp from the Go Overboard stamp set from My Favorite Things. And before I actually stamp my sentiment, I'm going to take my Crop-A-Dial and punch holes in the top section of the background paper. And I'm going to use these holes in just a moment to set some grommets so that I can thread some rope through. I've selected a solid blue color from the Trendsetter 6x6 pad for my sentiment, and this is going to be the little banner sentiment at the bottom. So I inked up the stamp in some Versamark ink and then coated it with some embossing powder from Zing. I believe the color is baked brown sugar or baked sugar, and then I set it using my heat tool. For the rope embellishment on the left-hand side, I took 3 pieces of rope trim, like from the sewing department, and tied them into a knot. And I worked the strings so that the knot was on the flatter side. And I threaded each one of the strings through each one of the individual grommets. And now you can kind of see more of the card coming together. To secure the rope, I just used some pieces of Scotch tape to tape each one of the strands down and trimmed off the excess tails. I remembered at this point that the sketch had rounded corners on one of the sides, so I took my corner chomper and used the 1/2" side to round the corners on the right-hand side of the card. And then I adhered the panel down using dimensional adhesive. At this point, the card already had quite a bit of bulk, so I took my distress ink in tea dye and went around the edge of the circle that the anchor is going to sit on. That way it stands out a little bit when I adhere all of this down without adding any more dimension to the card. I trimmed the sentiment down using my paper trimmer at an angle, and I attached the sentiment as well as the anchor down with some dimensional adhesive. So here's a look at the final product. Thanks for watching.